Hello, I'm Rowan North. I am the moderator for this panel. If any of you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I will try to incorporate them in. Don't be afraid because they're with the topic of streaming. It's big, very broad. There is the equipment side of things. There is the experience of streaming, pros and cons, different streaming platforms, things like that. So if you guys can help direct what our conversation is going to be, that would be really, really, really nice. So let's introduce everyone. First off, I am Rowan North. I think I already said that. That's all right. I'm a freelance illustrator and art educator. So you can find my stuff at rowannorthillustrations.org. And yes, I do stream. In fact, I do a lot of streaming with Ravyn here. Below me. She I GM. I'm a game master on her channel and a player on her channel. We also have done video game streams together. So I'm gonna actually go around. Let's actually start with Erica and then Ravyn.
Which I think is a fantastic idea because Ravyn's just amazing, and I've been following Ravyn's channel for, well, longer than I should admit. I know. I love you guys so much. It's great to be on the panel with you.
Love you too, Erica.
My experience with streaming, or what I bring to the table here, is I have moderated live streams for different authors. Recently, I was helping Brandon Sanderson's team, and the however many thousands of people that are sitting there watching, and questions coming in, questions going out. I am a guest often on people's channels. And so just kind of protocol, the appropriate way to make connections if you do love to game and how that all works. I do have a channel myself on Twitch, and I tend to use that platform to live stream out to places like YouTube and Facebook and whatnot. And it'll be anything from conversations about writing, which I am a writer. That is what I love to do. I love to game too. Who am I kidding? But it's a tool in my toolbox that I love to use. And so I've seen the good, I've seen the bad. And basically there's so many suggestions I can make depending on what you're looking for.
Thank you so much. Ravyn.
Hi, I'm Ravyn. I'm the creative director for the Ravyn Evermore, which is my brand for all the various things I do from streaming, obviously. I'm also a tabletop designer, professional GM, voice actor. I do art. I do a ton of stuff. If you want to check out any of that, my link tree, I'm going to throw that into chat one more time. And if you're watching on YouTube later, you can find it at its link, so linktr.ee/TheRAVVYN. And that's got all my links for Twitch, Twitter, Coffee, Patreon, you name it, it's on there. So that's me. I'm excited to be on this panel and answer some questions.
Thank you guys so much. Yes, so I think the most important question, especially for people to get to know us, is how did you guys get started in streaming? What was your first stream? What prompted you to kind of get into that niche? Let's let us actually start with Erica, because me and Ravyn can bounce off of each other with our story. So
yeah.
So my first initial real exposure to streaming was a bunch of really cool authors got together and did a D&D 5e homebrew world called Gods of Varion. And that had people like Dan Wells and Maudie Murdoch, who I've known since my university days. And so, of course, I'm going to, sit there and cheer for her half-orc character and Howard Taylor. And so the concept of tabletop streaming, I was like, that's a thing. I knew about gaming streaming where people were, playing whatever game you can imagine on Twitch. But I was like, wait, D&D? Okay, now you have my attention. So, and they were friends of mine. And so that was my initial first streaming thing. I think the first time I was actually involved in a streaming scenario was with Brambleberry Games, and that was with Natasha Entz. Yeah, and
Oh, we love her.
Yeah, Natasha, I love her so much too. Sorry, I'm like different people that I'm like, man, if we could just bring them in too, that would also be cool. But I know that like there's only so many spaces. Anyway, and like as I ramble,
so relatable.
And with hers, I was playing a Arakora Bard in a Mist of Barovia or Curse of Strahd campaign. And that one was ambitious because it was 4 groups of adventurers all playing in the same world, interacting with the same storylines. Natasha is a genius when it comes to DMing, story building, and interlacing everybody together. Just the amount of work and everything that went behind the scenes. I bow down to her mastery. And that's the majority of what I've done. And then, of course, moderating, and I'm on Twitch as Kuta Marler doing different writing stuff and occasionally gaming. I was doing a Portal playthrough, and I had friends who would come and laugh because I got caught in a death spiral. And so I would respawn, the turrets would kill me, respawn, turrets. And I was just we're going back to the last save point because, well, funny, I can only, be murdered so many times and feel okay about it.
Oh, no, that's amazing.
It was amazing and terrible. Like, I love gaming. I love playing. But, I am not a very good... you will not see me in any tournament championships anytime soon. But I do love to play. And I think that's what I bring to the table.
To be fair, I'm terrible at games as well. All right, Ravyn.
It's really funny that you're asking that question because it's like you. So I was the COO for a retail data analysis company, that startup, and I was like, I like video games and stuff. And then Rowan was like, you should like stream. It would be fun. So I started streaming Subnautica, and Rowan and I did a stream channel together for a little while called R&R, where a very Game Grumps style stream.
Usually I was the Aaron Hansen being angry at
and it was a lot of fun. And then I found that I really, really enjoyed it. And I really, really didn't enjoy my job. So to make a long story short, I also discovered tabletop streaming and had a similar reaction. Was like, wait, this is a thing. And later ended up having to leave that job because of a number of issues. I sort of fell into doing it full time. That job ended after about, I think, 250 applications sent out over a 30-day period. I had a dozen interviews, maybe 3 second interviews, and the resounding message I got from everybody was like, "Oh, you're awesome. You would be so great for this job, but you're overqualified." And of course, I'm just like, oh, I know, but also I need a job. So not having any luck in the job market, and this was, of course, before COVID. So not having any luck in the job market even then, I was like, all right, well, I enjoy streaming. Let's give this a shot. And so I started focusing on it full time. And I went from playing Subnautica to doing tabletop streams. And then I think this was right before COVID was like,
hello.
Oh, we have to be in lockdown and everything.
You here? I'm here to destroy your life.
Right before that, I started running 10 shows a week on my channel. And I don't recommend that, by the way. I was like, I need to test my limits. Like how much can I do? So I was like, we'll do one season, which is a 4-month period. We'll do one season with 10 shows a week. And that was right around the time that COVID really hit and everything got crazy. Yeah, don't recommend doing that. Don't kill yourself with that. I do 7 shows a week now, and that's pretty much the sweet spot. I can't handle more than that. So I stream Tuesday through Saturday, and then Friday and Saturday have 2 streams basically.
Yeah.
But that's how I got into it. Was as a hobby because Rowan suggested it. And I was like, sure, I'll give it a try. I'm like, this is really fun. And then just life circumstances kind of said, okay, well, no other opportunities are here, so try doing this full time. And I basically found that everything I'd done up to my point in this life had prepared me for this job, and I absolutely love it. So that's how I got started.
That's now we keep her in the basement and feed her on occasion.
Yeah, pretty much.
She lives with us.
Okay.
All right. Are you okay?
Oh no, I've been doing some different research on different stuff, and I've been reading about the original development of psychological profiling of serial killers. For the FBI.
That's coming up right now.
And so when you're like in the basement with feet on occasion, I'm just like,
oh, okay.
Oh,
well,
no, it's a joke. I know full well.
You know, there's my bedroom and chat. So I just sleep on the seat. No, I'm kidding. That's my streaming booth. The bedroom's adjacent.
So
no.
Keep you in the little streamer box. And
yeah, just make your food on occasion. And
I stream full time, so I do practically live in this closet. But I actually have a bedroom.
Oh no! In fact, Ravyn cooks for us a lot, and we appreciate it a lot. So, anyways. So we were, I think we already answered this question, but I was going to ask, like, what do you stream? Yeah, I think across the board, like, you can stream whatever you want is what we're getting at. Because you, Erica, you said that you moderate for writers and writer chats. Is that what's going on with the videos there?
Yes. So there's a couple of, so there's 2 things. I love to write. And have written my own books, of course. And then I love helping people get their own work either started or out there or just wherever you happen to be, because everybody is at a different place when it comes to their creative process and what they're making. And so I've done everything from bounce ideas with folks to, beta reading first drafts to take your pick. And so with streaming for me, I can help out in different people's chats when they're announcing books or whatever's going on. And then I will also, I've got the publishing company, Heads and Tails Publishing. And so when we do a new release, I'll do a 20-30 minute interview with the author, like talking about process or what project are you super excited about. And it's kind of like a mini interview show. And streaming allows me a platform, a way to broadcast and produce it in such a way that it looks good. It's not like, oh, look, here's my cell phone. And there's nothing wrong with using your cell phone. It just, I can have it serve the author in the best way possible. And that's what I really love about streaming. Is that there are programs and all sorts of different things. I have a background in video production. And so I understand, like, this is how you do a cutaway. This is how, you develop this graphic so that it's the right size and doesn't look all funky when it's out there in TV land. Well, internet land. So, like, that's with the writing side, it's really fun because it gives me kind of like this avenue to give voices to people who normally don't have a chance to speak or say, or, hey, I'm stuck on this or whatever. I've held writing sprints on my channel. And so that's basically, we write for 20 minutes and then we chat and then we write again. And anybody can come sit in and do those with us. During the Halloween season, I was reading Edgar Allan Poe stories because, well, one, they're no longer covered by trademark and IP license, et cetera, et cetera. But it was a fun, spooky thing to do. And I was meeting folks who also enjoyed fun, spooky stories like I do. So
That's cool.
So that's kind of it. It's amazing because it gives you a voice or a platform for whatever you're trying to, whatever you love. Not trying to do, because I don't think that's fair, but whatever you love, you have a way to put it out there.
Yeah, I've known. We have a friend that does knitting, and knitting Twitch is apparently a thing.
Yeah.
So
she's really good at it too.
That's fantastic. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, there's singing Twitch, which I'm not as familiar with. There's also body paint, which is super popular. So
the singing one's a little weird. You kind of have to do original music now because of the whole DMCA thing that Twitch did, which affected everybody. I think they've learned a lot from that misstep, and they're handling things a little better now. But yeah, if you are interested in singing on Twitch, that is one thing to look into. They're a lot more picky about it than, say, YouTube. So you pretty much have to go with original or licensed music that you have licenses to.
So actually, on that topic, what streaming platform do you consider like the best? Best for people
Twitch.
starting off and.
Twitch.
All right.
There's a lot of good stuff with YouTube streaming that I've heard. I don't have any experience with it because I started on Twitch, and that it's really best to focus on just one. For the most part, put your content in other areas, but as far as streaming platforms, especially because a lot of them have exclusivity rights to certain content for certain periods of time. Multi-streaming, like streaming to two platforms at the same time, is technically against Twitch terms of service. The odds of that being enforced are low, but still, it's technically against terms of service.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, Twitch owns rights to the content for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. I'll wait at least 48, because what'll happen is I'll record whatever's happening on Twitch, and then 24 hours later, upload to like YouTube or Facebook or wherever else I want it. But I know of authors that the only place they live stream from is Instagram, because that's where they're comfortable. That's what they know. YouTube seems to be there's so much YouTube can do, but for lifestyle and like packaged content, YouTube is a fantastic place for you to be. I think for live happening right now or like engaging kind of thing, Twitch, hands down, just because the chat interface is wonderful. The tools that you have access to are great.
Mm-hmm. I know that a lot of people in different countries like using YouTube Live, which is interesting. I've done YouTube Live, not YouTube Live, Facebook Live. Excuse me, Facebook Live, which I've done Facebook Live a couple times. It's fine, I guess. That's more for just your friends and the people who follow you, though. It's much harder to kind of discover content.
It can be.
Yeah.
And also with Facebook Live, it's set up in such a way that, let's say you're in a country where the internet connections can be, for lack of a better word, dodgy. So they're not like we don't have high-speed internet and the most amazing fiber cables ever. It's like a buffer that's built in so that as you're recording, if there's a hiccup or whatever, there's just kind of a like an emergency gap. So it's not
freeze. Yeah.
So
I've definitely seen that. Another one that. Oh, go ahead.
There's a lot of different platforms out there that you can use. Discord also has streaming as well. I think the biggest thing for which platform to focus on or to choose starting out is the goal of building your community. So once you've built up a community, you're less tied to a specific platform. You can branch out a little bit more. But really to get anybody watching you, I would definitely focus on one of the larger platforms, build up your following. And then if you want to do more niche streaming like Facebook or Instagram or Discord or places like that, you can start integrating that into your sort of your content schedule, would be my recommendation.
Agreed. That is sound advice.
So, actually, Author Troy says we use StreamYard to Facebook Live with a few business clients. It can work well. And I haven't heard of StreamYard. That's very interesting. Thank you for that. All right, let's move on to a different question, shall we? My handy dandy notebook. How do you find time to stream?
Yeah, man. So before pandemic life, it was a lot. Call it what it is. You know, the sky is blue, the grass is green. Sometimes, it is what it is. I was able to get a pretty good schedule in place of, okay, so I know like 10 to midnight, my house is going to be quiet enough for me to be able to be active and stream. I will have to make special arrangements when I'm on other people's channels because they tend to want to start earlier than that, which is fair. It's their channel, their rules. But it's like, okay, everybody in the house. Well, not that bad, but I have 2 cats and they're both sleeping right now, which is why they haven't, joined us. Sorry, that's a different phone line coming through.
Speaking of, I may have to pop out of here because Glitch is terrorizing Nero, or the other way around.
Oh dear, that is not fun.
So I might have to step in and be cat mom. But please continue.
If you want to throw Glitch downstairs, that's totally fine. We can talk amongst ourselves for a moment.
Yes, Erica, continue on that line of thought, and I am going to, make sure the cats stop what they're doing.
Totally understand. And then there's the little ones. And so once upon a time, 10 to midnight or 4 to 6 in the morning were the times where I could actively stream and not have it conflict with the house. With the pandemic, it kind of changed things up. My 3rd grader did homeschool or distance learning for a while. And that takes a lot of energy and a lot of prep. And so for me, I haven't been as actively streaming as I would like to be. That doesn't still mean that I don't get my content fix when I can. So finding time to stream is finding what are the points in your day where I can do this. For some folks, it's lunch break. For M. Todd Gallaglass, who's another guest or panelist at LTUE, he'll do his in the evening, and he does a lot of reading and poetry and all sorts of really cool stuff. But for him, California Pacific Standard Time, later evening works best. And I have friends in New Zealand and Australia. And so when I'm up at odd hours of the night or morning, I, get to hang out with the Aussie and the Kiwi crowd, which I have no problem with because I have connections back that way.
I wonder if we have some of the same streamer friends, because I also have a couple in New Zealand and Australia that I'm friends with.
Yeah,
it's entirely possible.
They're a cool group. And that's the other thing I love about streaming is international community, I feel at least, tends to be a lot easier to develop and have because you're not set to a traditional broadcasting schedule. You choose the time. And while everyone else around you, like in your state or country, might be asleep, well, guess what? The other side of the world is awake. So it's really fun.
I've literally had games where I had somebody from Poland, England, US, somebody that was in Japan, and somebody that was in Australia on the same stream.
I know who you're talking cool about too.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing. Like everybody, like you're just not limited, and it's so cool. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Good. So the question again was, how do you find time to stream?
Yes,
For
I know
me
it's your
now,
full-time job, but
yeah, for me now, it's easy. It's my full-time job, so I set a schedule and I just stick to it. Before I started doing it full-time, it was a little bit more difficult. I definitely had to set aside, like, this is the time that I'm doing streaming and make sure I stuck with it. And I will say, as difficult as it is, because it's certainly a challenge if you're not doing it full-time, to make sure that you're doing it consistently. Consistency is super important.
Yeah.
That is the best way to build up your following, is if they know they can find you at that same spot at the same time each week.
Yeah.
Missing a stream here and there is
Yeah.
fine, but like try to keep it as consistent as possible.
yes.
Yeah. My Twitch stats have, because that consistency over this past little bit, flew out the window, for lack of a better metaphor.
Yeah. I've actually been impressed because my husband has started streaming recently, and he's been pretty darn good about setting a schedule and sticking with it. He'll skip, I'll skip here and there, but in general, he's been pretty darn good and pretty darn good about talking about it. So I'm really interested to see what happens with him, because he's still like in that early cusp and seeing what happens. So a couple of things that the comments have said, they have talked about other apps that are up and coming and things that they use. Apparently there's an app called Stereo for audio only streaming, which is interesting.
I have heard of that one.
I can imagine that being really good for ASMR. And then there's also Clubhouse, which I haven't heard of either of these.
I haven't heard of that one.
So thank you for those comments. I can agree, like, just one of the things with streaming that I personally have found is that if you're going to be doing anything anyways, why not stream it? You have to have the right hardware requirements, which is my next question. But why not? Why not? Why not do something that you're going to be enjoying anyways, and just try to share it if you are wanting that. Yeah, sometimes you want to be by yourself, but it just, you kind of have to flick that switch in your brain and say, okay, it's streaming time. Why not? And you're still doing things that are very enjoyable for you.
That's actually a good point. I know this isn't the question, but one thing I think it would be good to touch on with that is you probably won't realize it when you're first starting. But when you are streaming, there is a certain measure of having to be quote unquote on. And it's very easy to underestimate the drain that will put on you, even if you're an extrovert. So
That
if
is
you do start
absolutely
streaming pretty frequently, remember to pace yourself with that, because you can burn out before you realize it if you don't take that into consideration.
Just
Thank you very much.
Yeah. On tech specs.
Yes, let's talk about tech.
Let's talk about tech. Now, you can do a very basic setup as long as you have the video card that's going to be able to. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. My recommendations, if you can, and there are going to be people being like, "That's a lot of tech," is, if possible, either have the graphics and the video card and the RAM and everything you need to be able to not only play the game, but send the video out there into Cyberland. It's amazing how quickly CPU and RAM get eaten up when you're trying to do both simultaneously. So kind of be aware of what your game uses or consumes. This is more for like if you're Destiny or Escape from Tarkov or any of those, there's your machine needs just a little more oomph. And if it doesn't have that little more oomph, it's going to be really hard to stream, because you're basically asking the computer brain to do two difficult tasks at the same time. Now, for things like tabletop RPG or the writing interviews that I do, it's not you don't need as heavy of a heavy duty tech specs. Now, that being said, the tower you can't see under my desk, I built to spec. I put it all together and it was fun. And I cursed the motherboard gods once or twice because I'm like, why isn't my graphic card acknowledging that it's plugged in? And so for that kind of thing, just be aware of what you're trying to do. And then from my video production days, if the video isn't all that amazing, not the end of the world. However, if the audio is funky, because that audio, I mean, visually it's going straight to your brain, but that audio, if it's not at least understandable, there have been streams I've seen that are amazing, but the audio is so bad, I just can't.
They're just trying to be lo-fi, Erica.
Well, I'm not saying you have to have like HD quality 4K sound or sorry, 4K is video. My apologies. But
no worries.
I'm not saying that, it's got to be cinematic level quality 3D. You're in the movie theater. I'm more meaning what distractions can you pull out of the background? So if there's like humming and hissing from the fridge that's off to the side, or the cats are fighting in the background.
Which is why I had to throw that one downstairs.
Yeah. So it's being aware of your space and what you can probably hear that car going by. Like being aware of your space, and part of streaming is storytelling, whether you're playing someone else's story via a video game or whether you're playing, sorry, I tapped the mic and I really hope that
No, that's totally fine. That wasn't bad.
Okay. Or if you're RPGing, you've got all these different characters and you want them to be able to shine and interact. But if the train is going by and the horn is blowing, you can't hear anything. I live between two train tracks. It's things I have to take into consideration.
Fascinating.
On that note, speaking of equipment, software is also part of your tech and equipment. For OBS or Streamlabs OBS specifically, I know, but I imagine other programs have this. There are things called like sound gates or noise gates and compressors and things like that you can utilize to mitigate that. Even if you don't have like a super fancy directional microphone, you can set a certain decibel level so that if it's below that decibel level, it just doesn't pick it up. And you can set up things where if it's above a certain decibel level, it just automatically brings it back down to a certain point so it doesn't, blow out people's eardrums. And yeah, you don't have to have a super fancy microphone. I'm a big fan of Blue products. There's lots of different brands out there, but I really like them.
Yeah, the Blue Snowball, Blue Yeti, things like that.
Yeah,
I'm using a Blue Yeti right now.
Yeah, you can see my husband's like boom arm back there. Mm-hmm. That's a Yeti. So
yeah, they have a $50 version called Snowball, which is pretty great. The directional features and things aren't really in there, but it is fairly single direction, which is what you want for a streaming microphone.
Yeah.
Omnidirectional is bad because it's going to grab all of the audio from everywhere around it. So directional is kind of what you want. So yeah, even with that, you don't have to buy the super fancy kinds. You can get by with a little bit.
Other thing to know is pop filter. Usually you have like that fuzzy thing on mics, and I didn't know how important that is. I don't have one with this one, but it doesn't matter as much with this microphone. It's pretty decent. But having a pop filter, or you can even like kind of DIY your own to make sure that you don't get those beautiful, beautiful mouth sounds. Unless you're doing ASMR, in that case, go for it.
Well, and just one other quick thought I'd like to bring up is you can have the latest and greatest tech, but if you don't know how it works, it's not going to do you any good. And so the point is, you can have a great stream and do a great production as long as you know what the tech you have and software, etc., everything we've talked about. If you know how to use it, you can do quality streams.
That's really good. So All right, let's dumb this down a little and make this for the layman who has no idea how to stream, because this is all like super techie talk. For those of you wanting to start out and not knowing what you are doing, what video resources or resources do you have available to learn how to stream or present yourself on stream? Anything like that?
YouTube, to use an example, Streamlab OBS. I can't remember what I was trying to learn how to do, but there was something, I think it was changing something in one of the graphic bugs, and whatever I was doing, just I wasn't understanding. And so when I went into my friend Google and went, hey, how do I do this? It brought up different folks who do everywhere from 1.5-minute tutorials, quick and dirty. This is how you take care of that, to 1.5-hour, 2-hour specials on every little minute pixel alter, like what every little switch could possibly do as you try to accomplish this thing. The community, at least from what I've seen, is very open with the information and how the software and how to use the software, how to make all of that work. So for me, that's been my greatest resource. That and reaching out to streaming friends. We've mentioned Natasha and Smith on the panel earlier. She was super kind and super nice to me when I was like, hey, what would you suggest here? Or I'm not 100% sure about this. Now, that doesn't mean go flood Natasha with questions. She's super helpful. She probably would help you out. But as you build a community of people that you play with, or friends or followers or etc., you can have those folks to bounce ideas off of. And for me, back in the good old production studio days, which I keep referencing, being able to talk with the engineer and then talk with the person who is directing the program. All right, so this is what we're coming up against. How do we fix it? That communication in a group, for me at least, is incredibly helpful.
Yeah,
that's
Google
really good.
Is definitely your friend. Google's definitely going to be your friend for stuff like that. You can find resources on tons of stuff for Streamlabs, OBS, all the other programs out there. And then that's something I actually do as a consulting service too. So if you want somebody like there with you on a call, kind of holding your hand through the whole process, that's something I do.
Hashtag hire a professional.
Yeah, you're welcome to contact me about that if you would like, via anything on my Linktree. I've done that with a couple of friends that I have that have wanted to start streaming recently, and they just found that the tutorials were too overwhelming, so they just needed somebody there with them to kind of like talk them through it live. So that's something I can do as well. That's an option. There are lots of people that do stuff like that out there, not just me.
So I was going to say, as far as like tech specs and things like that as well, there's a lot of YouTubers that have like Amazon like affiliated links. Basically, they have their list of the equipment they use, and that is also very, very helpful for getting ideas for what you would need for your setup as far as the more hardware side of things go. So,
yeah. And I was going to say, hiring a consultant can be a fantastic idea, because I have a little bit of broadcast background. So for me, there are things that I'm just like, oh yeah, I get this. Do. But if you're like, what's an aspect ratio? That gets a little more kind of for, like, I can't program to save my life. I understand that writing code makes lots of amazing things happen, and I'm very, very grateful for it. But I'm not going to try and code my own website from scratch, because that's just not a skill set I have. And so I will, go talk to a consultant or talk to a friend who I know is good, who I will, then hire. It just making sure that if you're utilizing someone's talents and abilities, that there's an equivalent exchange when it comes to all this. As I, slyly reference Full Metal Alchemist.
This segment was brought to you by Wix. I'm not kidding.
Don't.
Oh my god.
No, not really. But with the whole not coding your own website.
Well, I know some things. I'm just saying that if it were getting into the itty-gritty details, there are people I would go and pay to do the itty-gritty stuff that I don't know. And it's not worth my time to spend however many years learning or in school or whatever. My time is better spent where I have a natural talent to excel and exceed, and do awesome things that I love. Whereas if something I'm not so good at, someone else is amazing at, and they exceed, then it makes sense to have them take care of it.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Raven. I want to move on to another question. What do you have?
I was just going to say, if you have the means, it's a good idea to hire a consultant if it's something that you just know it's going to take you a ton of time to figure out. I did the same thing with I'm putting out my RPG book, my tabletop system fundamental RPG 2nd edition, and I know Photoshop really well. I do not know InDesign, and so I hired a colleague of mine to do the layout for me because I can afford it. And it's probably saved me weeks of time that would have been wasted.
Well, yeah. Why spend weeks on something that it's not your skill set? You're going to be far more happier. Well, for me, I'll be far more happier writing or, helping someone develop a story idea. I can do Photoshop, but it's going to take.
Why would I want to? Yeah. So moving on, I would like to talk about presenting to a camera. This is something that I am not perfect at. I was watching. I hate watching myself back on a stream because then I see all the ums and ahs and filler words and all of that. I'm just really, really bad at that. But how do you get better at presenting to camera? How do you better do the presenting side of things? Your on face, I suppose.
Oh, wow. There's a whole lot that goes into this. For me, broadcast and theater experience, because body language is going to come through. And okay, I'll start with the rule of thirds. So when I don't have the YouTube live stream up right this second, but with my camera frame that I can see, there's this side, and there's the middle. You're generally, especially when streaming with a whole bunch of different people and different things going on, you're going to want to be in the middle of your frame. And so your frame is that entire square that you're sitting inside. And the rule of thirds also works this way as well. So just this middle circle here, that's where you're going to want to be. Just because if you move outside of that, but let's say the framing's cut, all of a sudden your face disappears. So just being aware of what is your camera filming. Is there dirty underwear in the background? Because look, it'll distract you as you sit there and laugh. Honestly, think about it. If I had dirty underwear hanging back here, no one's going to be paying attention to me. They're going to be like, put those skivvies in the laundry.
That's amazing. So you want to know why this blanket is on the couch like this? It's because
it's hiding the laundry.
No, it's hiding a mess of stuff that I haven't put away yet. So I totally I relate to this right now.
Yeah. The reason you can't see the top of my bookshelves is because there's a whole bunch of distance learning school stuff that we're still trying to figure out where its home is. And that's not conducive to what we're talking about. That'd be more appropriate for, how to survive a pandemic with a third grader.
Whoa, mood.
Well, oops, sorry, there's
the train.
Okay, like I mentioned. And so then being aware of your tech and what it can do and what it's capturing. And the next thing is body language. Well, one last thing, headspace. And I'm not doing a very good job of it today because I've recently changed my setup, but you don't want your head disappearing and all of a sudden half your facial expressions are gone because your camera is cutting you off here.
Mm-hmm.
Just one other, but that's that rule of thirds. If you stay in the middle, all good. Body language is a big thing. If I'm like this, I'm so.
Is this a personal attack?
No.
I'm just like, I'm kind of like,
hey, but you're not. But the thing is, with what you were just doing, way open body language, way blah, like
Yeah.
when you got a little frustrated with me there.
No, I'm not actually frustrated.
I know. I know Rowan outside of all this, so I can.
So I can snark at you.
Yeah. Your body language is sending a message. Now, micro expressions and whatnot aren't always going to come through on camera, just for different reasons and whatnot. And so your overall, what is your body doing? Like, oh wow, yeah, I'm really interested in what's going on, or or I'm in control of the situation, which is what Rowan's body's language has been for the majority of this panel, because you're the moderator. Makes sense.
Thank you.
So just, and yeah, on camera is hard, and you just have to be comfortable with, this is who I am, this is what I'm putting out there.
That's really good.
I'll be quiet.
Ravyn, do you have... No, you're totally good. Ravyn, do you have anything to add to the presenting to camera?
Nope, that pretty well covered it.
Oh no, it's okay. That's awesome. Doesn't look like we have any questions. One of the things that the chat has just been agreeing with what we've been saying and adding points like, BBC producers and things like that, leaving very adult objects out when they're being filmed. Whoops. So
I guess I do have one thing
yes,
to add.
Please go.
Background is a good point. If you aren't able to stream where the camera's facing a wall, so like right now I've got a green screen pinned to a wall behind me. So if there's open space behind you where people might be walking back and forth, or things like that, one thing that I did when I first started out, before I got a green screen or anything, I was just doing it as a hobby. I would still set up. I had like a couple ladder back chairs that I had set up, and I would just put a sheet over them, so I had something behind me that was a solid background. So having people walking in and out of frame can be super distracting. So I prefer to have a solid background.
I feel like this
me.
is also a personal attack.
Oh.
No, my husband usually is walking back and forth behind me, so.
Let's just.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. But I prefer to have that just so that you don't have that distraction going on behind you.
Yes.
It is a set. It is something that you're producing. What is behind you telling everybody else? Because if it's not a green screen, which takes out all that distraction, I've got a whole bunch of books on the shelves. Mm-hmm. We all like, we should all be so surprised that Erica has books.
Yeah, no, you're the framing of your room is actually really well.
And intentional.
Yes, yep. Precisely. For me, mine is not so much. Hopefully that will change when we actually get to moving. We only have like 1 minute, so I guess we're going to do sign-offs, where people can find us, our next panels, things like that. And if anyone has any questions, how do we contact you? Things like that. So let's go ahead. Ravyn, go ahead and you start with that.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to throw my link tree into chat there on Discord, and then if you're watching this elsewhere, link tree, it's linktr.ee/the, so that's TheRavvyn. That's got all my links to everything: Twitch, Twitter, etc., etc. And yeah, again, I'm the creative director for the Ravyn Evermore, which is my brand for all the stuff that I do, from tabletop streaming, tabletop design. I'm a professional GM, voice actor, artist. I do a ton of stuff. If you need help with any of those things, as I mentioned, I also do consulting services. So feel free to contact me if you'd like help with a creative or administrative area of what you're doing, and I'd be happy to help you there. And yeah, that's me.
I would like to also add that Ravyn does have art in the art show. So
yeah,
if you check that out, so
I need to remember to tell people that.
Yeah, remember, you're got a whole room of art, so please check that out. Erica, where can we find you? How can we contact you? Things like that.
So if you head over to www.kuta.marler.com, it'll take you to the different social media places I'm active, kind of keep you up to date on what's going on. I'm fairly active on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on occasion. And so if you go to the website, it'll take you to all those different places. I write, in fact, I'll just do this real quick. I'm sure it's backwards because, once again, didn't finish getting my camera set up.
It's actually right side. So.
Oh, it is? Oh, good. Okay. So this is Eden's Outcast. It's my first novel that's out, all about the mother of monsters running around Utah and dealing with all the different creatures. So fun times.
That's cool.
My take on the Lilith myth. And there's a couple other
really
shorts.
fun.
It's yes, I get to have fun. And the next one has fire-breathing jackalopes and Medusa, and I need to finish it. So yes, I know. That's. Oh, I do have a panel on networking during COVID, or how to network during a pandemic, and that's tomorrow at noon. Sorry. So that's my next panel.
Awesome.
Oh, I should probably mention that too. So I've got an advanced guide to streaming presentation at 4 in the Butler room. If you want to learn more about streaming there.
Awesome. And for me, I am Rowan North. You can find me at rowannorthillustrations.org, which I post at the beginning. And that's it. Thank you.